As you all know, there has been a lot going on on YouTube as far as demonetization is concerned. And people have been wondering, well, why exactly now? Like what's going on? Why now? And I have a theory as to why now. Now, this is just a theory. I can't necessarily 110% prove this. But I think it's a pretty solid theory as to why this is going on. Now, we've been covering some good news so far today, but I certainly don't want to give anybody the impression that that the Biden administration is necessarily great on digital rights. There are still a lot of issues that are very concerning, and an issue that we've been talking about on this show a good bit is Section 230. And there's a lot of confusion around Section 230 because the way they report Section 230 is they report it as Section 230 is the thing that protects social media from ever being sued by people for stuff that is on their site because they are a user. Users generate the content, so they can't be held liable. And people kind of look at what's going on and they think, well, gee, Facebook and Twitter, they're acting as publishers, they're engaging in censorship, so maybe they shouldn't have those protections, which that is true that it's a problem what Facebook and Twitter are doing. That is true. That is a problem. However, describing Section 230 as just the thing that protects social media platforms and that's it, that's a very incomplete assessment of what Section 230 really is and what it's all about. Section 230 goes a lot further than that, and Section 230 applies to all user-generated content on the internet. So it's not just social media platforms; it's comment sections on news articles. It's something like a Craigslist or something like that. So messing with Section 230 would have a lot of unintended consequences. First of all, it would lead to more censorship, not less, because a lot of these social media platforms, if they're going to be worried about lawsuits from whoever and at whatever point, they're just going to censor more content. That's just what they're going to do. Another thing that's going on here is it also loans itself to a whole lot of other problems because, well, let's just start with what's going on. First of all, that first claim I made where, oh, it'll lead to more censorship, not less. Here's a little evidence that supports that right here. This came out recently. Zuckerberg will permanently depoliticize Facebook. Zuckerberg will permanently depoliticize Facebook following violence organized on the platform. So there you go. Their solution is just, well, we're just going to depoliticize the whole thing. And what has been happening in the interim? Well, a bunch of left-wing pages have been taken down. Socialist pages have been taken down. And who wants to mess with Section 230? Well, the Trump administration did. And here's the problem. The Biden administration does too. So bringing it back to demonetization and what's going on there. A bunch of YouTube channels have been demonetized recently. Why? Well, here's the theory as to why. The Safe Tech Act offers Section 230 reform, but the law's defenders warn of major side effects. So here's the first Section 230 reform proposal, and this is from the Biden administration. Here's the paragraph I want to skip down to. First, it would fundamentally alter the core language of Section 230. And given how concise that snippet of language is to begin with, any change is a big change. Under the new language, are you guys ready for this? Section 230 would no longer offer protections in situations where payments are involved. So, if you're YouTube, you already know about this. You already know this is going on if you're YouTube. So what are you going to do? You're just going to go demonetize anything you think could be a problem. You're just going to demonetize it because then guess what? Payments aren't involved. Here's another thing that went on simultaneously with a bunch of channels being demonetized. Simultaneously, they were taking down, they being YouTube, were taking down footage from protests. They were just taking it down. Footage that people were recording from the insurrection on January 6th. People were posting that content, and they were just recording what was going on. And YouTube was taking that content down. They took down Status Quo's content, and they took other content down just from folks who were there, who were just posting stuff on YouTube. How does that coincide with all this? Well, again, here's my theory. YouTube unrolled a new policy not too terribly long ago that they can just randomly monetize stuff if they want to, meaning a user or a creator who may not be a monetized channel or entity, YouTube can just randomly monetize something should YouTube choose to. That happened. I want to say it wasn't a long while ago, but it was somewhat recent. That's a new policy over at YouTube. Now, chances are these decisions for random monetization, if I had to take a guess, I'd say they're probably not made by a person. I'd say they're probably made by some type of AI, maybe something that gets a lot of views. YouTube figures, screw it, we're throwing an ad up there. And that decision's probably not made by a live person. So what if some content got monetized that was just somebody's protest footage or footage from the insurrection on January 6th, and somebody has a problem with it? Well, a payment is involved now. There is a payment involved, but who does that payment go to? Well, it doesn't even go to the creator in this case. It's just YouTube making money from advertisers. Probably not a good look. Probably not a good look at all, right? So how do they prevent a scenario like that from happening? Well, they're just going to take the content down. Now there's no content for a potential payment to be involved. And any of the channels that seem like they might be problematic, well, you're demonetizing them. So now there's no payment involved. And again, this goes into why you don't want to mess with Section 230. Section 230 applies to all users on the internet, not just social media platforms. So messing with it would have a bunch of unintended consequences like what we're seeing now. The solution is not to alter 230. The solution is to make new policies, additional policies that meet the moment and actually address the problems head on. Some of the solutions that we've talked about, somehow requiring the social media platforms to follow the free speech laws of the United States. That sounds like a good solution to me. They follow the free speech laws of the United States, and there's a transparent process around it. Making these things public utilities would be the most ideal thing. Make them public utilities. Break them up. Now, unfortunately, we probably shouldn't hold our breath on that one. But that would be the best solution. So that's my theory as to why we're seeing a lot of this demonetization. I think it has to do with this new policy from the Biden administration, where if a payment is involved, you don't get Section 230 protections. Well, if you're a social media company and you're aware of this, what are you going to do? You're just going to strip out the payments being involved. We demonetize these channels. There's no payment involved. So now if you're Google, YouTube, that's kind of a win-win for you, isn't it? Because first of all, a lot of these creators that they're popular, they have followings, so you still have them putting content on your platform because they still need to reach people on YouTube. But you don't have to worry about anything. You still got the clicks, you still got the eyeballs, but hey, there's no payment involved. So this is why messing with Section 230 isn't a good idea. And you know what else messing with Section 230 does? It will be okay. The YouTubes and the Facebooks and the Twitters, they'll be okay. They'll be able to get through it. But you know who it'll hurt the most? It'll hurt new platforms. Repealing something like Section 230, where platforms are liable for whatever, that'll make sure that there's never another Facebook, that there's never anything that could compete with Facebook or YouTube or Twitter. So this is just another, for instance, of why repealing Section 230 is not the answer, and altering Section 230 is not the answer. Additional policy that meets the moment, and keep in mind, this is new territory. I know sometimes it's hard to wrap our heads around this one because, a lot of us, it's hard to remember our pre-internet life, but the internet in many ways is still a very new thing. I know that's hard to imagine because a lot of people, they don't know life without the internet. I mean, some of y'all watching this now, you might not know life without the internet. A lot of us do. I remember life without the internet. But, sometimes you have to take a step back and be like, how did I do that pre-internet? We're all there because it's a utility in our life now. But this is just another, for instance. Repealing Section 230 isn't the answer. That will lead to a lot of unintended consequences, and this is one of them. But this is the United States of America, where sometimes we think you can fix a problem with shitty policy. Hey, we have a problem. Well, we have a bad idea going into law. We gotcha. That's what the United States tries to do. And it's Republicans and Democrats who do it. It's a bipartisan effort. Hey, here's a problem. We can make it worse. And that's what repealing Section 230 would do. It would take a bad problem and it would make it worse. And by the way, there's bipartisan support. Trump was all about it. So is Joe Biden. Two people, by the way, who don't really understand the internet. Joe Biden does not really understand the internet. Donald Trump does not really understand the internet. But Joe Biden started his campaign with a bunch of Comcast executives. So there you go. So that's my theory, folks. That's my theory as to why demonetization is happening and happen now.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your news on with Ron.